السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم، وصفيه من خلقه وخليله. نشهد بأنه قد بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجعلها على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كلام الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار، أعاذنا الله وإياكم منها. أما بعد، يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد. All praises and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We bear witness that there is no deity or divinity truly worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam is indeed the last of messengers sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to all of mankind. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, and upon his family, upon his companions, and upon all the true followers. And may Allah accept us among those true followers. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wanted to share with you some reflections. I recently had a chance to visit, as I was visiting some of my wife's relatives in Mexico. Had a chance to visit there, and as I met with people there, I noticed a lot of names that had some Arabic sounding names. One might say some Muslim sounding names, but yet not a lot of Muslims. And when you talk to some of them, they would tell you, oh yeah, I heard that my great-grandfather was Muslim, or my grandfather was Muslim, or we hear that we are originally from a Muslim background. Of course, this led me to read a little bit more, and eventually, I think all of us are familiar, came to the conclusion that actually there were millions and millions, literally millions and millions, of Muslims who have migrated to that part of the world, from North America to Central America and to South America. Millions have lived and moved to anywhere from Brazil, Argentina, to Chile, to Central American countries, Colombia, and all the way up to Mexico, and then, of course, the US. This was some of the earliest immigrant communities coming as Muslims. Of course, excluding the presence of forced slaves, our African brothers and sisters who were brought in way much earlier. But in terms of immigrants by choice, this was the first, these are the waves that have come from early on, but there were waves in the 1800s. And if you look, most of them have disappeared. Most of them have barely kept the names. Most actually don't, maybe even have changed their names. And it made me wonder, could this even happen to us here in this day and age? Someone might even ask himself or herself and say, why would we even care about this topic, about Muslims disappearing or not? Everybody is free to be what they are. Well, there are two reasons why we should care about whether there will be a continuation of who we are as a community, as an identity. Two reasons. First one is the protection of our own children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, ward off, protect yourself and your children and your family, your progeny from hellfire. Protecting yourself meaning ensuring that they know the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, someone might say the hidayah is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course. But we have a role to play to try to protect ourselves and our children. Our first priority, our very first priority is protecting our own progeny. So keeping an identity is important. But also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, describing this ummah, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. You are the best of nations, sent, made available, sent out to mankind and for mankind. Why? Because تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You believe, you enjoin good. You stand for goodness, for justice. You forbid evil, injustice. You stand against injustice. And you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are an ummah with a mission. We are an ummah with a message and a mission, with a purpose. That's what we are. That doesn't make us, in a racist way, better, superior. Our superiority comes when we enjoin good. If you enjoin good, if you stand for justice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm favoring you. So this is how it is. Not the language, not the skin color. So we are an ummah with a purpose. So yes, preserving our identity, and I'm not talking about food and drinks, I'm talking about the value for which we as Muslims stand for. Standing for or holding this identity is something we are required to hold, because it is a chance to help and safeguard mankind. So I looked into it and I found that actually most social scientists say that 4 trends that impact any community, especially a minority community living in a majority community. There are 4 trends that actually could impact them. The first one is separation. Second one is marginalization. Third one is assimilation. And the fourth one is integration. So I'm going to focus a little bit over them so we know what's coming ahead of us. One of them is going to happen to us. And it's not going to happen randomly. It's going to be by our choice. Our choice meaning either we allow it to happen ignorantly or deliberately. Because not doing something is something. Failing to plan, as they say, is a plan for failure. So if we say, I know that if the train is coming my way and I don't move out of the train's way, I can't blame the train. My failure to move out of the train's way becomes my fault. So the first trend that could happen is separation. Separation is when the minority community doesn't see anything good in the host community or the majority community. You see yourself superior to it. There is nothing I can learn or benefit from. So you isolate yourself. It's isolation. You think by isolating yourself, you're separating from the wrong, the harm that you see outside. You think you can preserve who you are. Eventually what happens is actually backfires on you. Because what happens, eventually you become more and more irrelevant. And irrelevant to your own and irrelevant to the others. And you become less trusted. Because you've chosen to separate from the mass, from the outside. In a way, we've seen that happening with some communities, including sometimes even Muslims, where they feel the best way to protect myself and my children is to isolate. I don't send my children to school. I don't interact. I'm not going to work in the public arena. I'm going to have my own job, my own interaction. All my friends are from my community. And not only from my community, from those who agree with my isolationist views. But eventually what happens is, even members of that isolated community start dwindling and going somewhere else because of the realistic aspect of having to interact with the larger community. And it goes against the fitrah. It goes against our teachings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَنْعَزِلُوا لِتَعَارَفُوا. Right? إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it the sunnah, the rule of life, by when He described all mankind, all people. I've created you from a single pair of male and female, and made you. He didn't say, and you happen to have become, and I've made you into nations and tribes, so you may know one another. So the sunnah, the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set, by intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deliberately had made us into nations and tribes. Different, being different is by design. It's not a mistake, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never makes mistakes. It is not a random thing that happened. It is not because of the evolution. It is Allah's design to make us different. So we can, why? He said it. He didn't even leave it for us to guess. لِتَعَارَفُوا. So you may engage with one another. Learn from each other's experiences. So you can know one another. Because there are benefits in engagement. There's always a benefit. So it goes against Islamic fitrah to isolate. The second trend is marginalization. The marginalization happens when actually the majority community doesn't see anything good in the other minority community. And what it does, it demonizes it. And it tries to push it outside of society. So it will have no impact, no influence, no presence. The goal is to force this community to either disappear, leave, or become completely irrelevant. This is where, again, the majority doesn't see anything good in the minority. Now what happens? Let's please come forward so we can make space for those in the back. And this creates an adversarial relationship, because this is about demonizing the other, rejecting the other. We see that in Europe more so than here, where they are they ban the building of masajid, of minarets. They ban the wearing of hijab. You can't have a hijab and get a job. You can't have a hijab in France and go to school. You can't be wearing decent swimsuit and go to the beach. The police will come and force you. Alhamdulillah, that was challenged by court. But that was happening. And the goal again is to marginalize. That is very dangerous, because what it does, when you have a marginalized community, you have a community that is angry. You have a community that refuses to interact. A community that's waiting for an opportunity to have rejection, fighting, disagreements. And actually it makes people like that easier praise for extremist groups such as Daesh and Qaeda and others, because they go to them and say, you see, you are rejected. They don't want you. That's why we notice, while from America, there were a handful of people who joined groups like Daesh, ISIS, but there were thousands, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5,000 of people who joined Daesh from Europe, because marginalization hasn't worked against Muslims here. In Europe, it has worked. It's very dangerous. And we see that anyone who has traveled to Europe, you see those efforts happening. And it's something that the Muslim community has to challenge as much as it can. The third trend, so we talked about separation, isolation. We talked about marginalization. The third one is assimilation. In Arabic, you want to think of it as ghawaban, melting. Right? We hear the melting pot. This is where basically a minority community feels the need to assimilate into the majority. Basically what it requires from you is to give up who you are. So in order to be accepted, in order to melt into the majority, so you don't face discrimination, you're not deemed as different. That means you change maybe your name. Instead of Muhammad and Ahmad and Ali and Tariq, you become Mo and Al and Tom and Sue. And not that there's anything wrong with the other names, but this is who your identity is. But you feel that holding those names will deprive you from getting equal rights, full acceptance. You change how you dress, whether you grow a beard or not. Maybe you change your religious identity. You stop coming to the masjid. Maybe you shave your beard. Maybe you take off your hijab because you feel, in order to be accepted, I need to assimilate. And this is also a wrong relationship from a sociological perspective, because this is basically a one-way street. And that one-way street is the minority community giving up what it is and embracing, adopting, basically deeply adopting to the full extent of the culture and the identity of the larger community. And this is exactly what I described that happened, for example, in South America. In South America or Central America, there wasn't really an attack on the Muslim community. But the forces of assimilation were so strong that the Muslims, they gave up who they are. Now, this happens either because there's fear, there's attack from the outside, or a weak identity. When Muslims or any community have a weak identity, then they can easily be absorbed by the other. Or sometimes, as I said earlier, the lack of planning. We grew up Muslims, we think, alhamdulillah, by living as a Muslim, automatically my children and my grandchildren are going to be Muslim. I don't need to do anything else because that's how I am. I became a Muslim because my parents were Muslims, so it must be automatic. But where I grew up maybe, as an immigrant, where you grew up if you are an immigrant, is very different than where you're growing or your kids are growing up today. The forces against them are very different. It requires different response from our end. So assimilation is something that is actually being forced on us. And actually I was doing an interview yesterday actually. And I was asked, said, what is the biggest threat to American Muslims today that you think is? Is it Donald Trump? Is it the Muslim ban? Is it Islamophobia? I said, no, none of that. The biggest threat is Muslims feeling, because of all of these pressures on them, all these external pressure, and lack of planning from their end, Muslims assimilating to the extent where they lose their identity. This is the scarier part, because if we don't plan, if we don't organize, we will wake up one day, and the millions we're talking about would say eventually, yeah, I heard my grandfather was Muslim. And this could happen. Don't think it didn't happen to others before. Other communities and Muslims in other places. Especially when you have a very active Islamophobia industry that is actually aiming to either have us marginalized or fully assimilated by giving up who we are. So that takes us to the fourth trend or possibility, and that is integration. Integration is actually a two-way street. It is where the minority community and the majority community develop mutual respect, mutual appreciation, where the minority, whether it's American Muslims or others, see value in what's out there, see values added, brought, given by the larger community, by the greater American culture with its diversity, but also it's vice versa, where the larger community sees value added, see value in the pluralism and the diversity, where there's an exchange of appreciation that happens, where you take some and you give some. Obviously, you get the chance to keep what is important to you in terms of ideology, in terms of value, in terms of theology, and you can adapt certain practices. It's okay. And again, this becomes an issue where we have to choose what is really the core values for us. Is eating biryani and mulukhiyah part of the core values of Islam? Of course not. If you like them, that's good. I love them too. But that's not what we are talking about in terms of preserving identity. If your children come to you and say, we prefer hamburgers over biryani, that's not the end of the world, right? That's not something that you're going to fight back. Say, hey, we are Muslims. Don't confuse culture with religion. This is where it creates an identity crisis in our children, in our youth, where we no longer can preserve the identity because we've added things to the identity that are not necessary. That's a baggage. Whether you like to wear the traditional clothing from back home, Gallabiya or Sarwal Qamis or a Kufi. Things that are traditional, alhamdulillah, if they want to develop it, they want to adopt it, great. But don't make that what Islam is. Tawheed is what Islam is. Respect for the parents is part of Islam. Respecting the neighbor is part of Islam. Loving Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and following him is part of Islam. Accepting the Quran as Allah's book is part of Islam. These are things that you want to hold on to. Not the cultural thing, because the cultural thing are the pluses, extra. This is like the spices on the side, the tawabil. Makes things nice, different culture. But they're not, without them we're fine. And that is important. So my dear brothers and sisters, as we're dealing with major challenges, our focus should be on integration. What is integration? Is your ability to bring in your values into the larger value, into the larger society that we're dealing with today. This is actually what highlights something really beautiful and unique about this country. Our country is one of those few countries that are actually made up by design of various minorities and various immigrants. I always laugh when someone comes to me at a lecture, some of these right-wingers and sometimes Trump supporters, and say, oh, what is your name? I say, my name is Hussam. Say, oh, why don't you adopt an American name? Say, it's a good idea. Maybe next time I'll change my name to Muhammad Ali, because it can't be more American than Muhammad Ali, the boxer, right? But their understanding is, again, what is their understanding is, they're thinking, they're trying to say, to define on you, what is an acceptable American? What is America, a melting pot or a salad bowl? Or a vegetable soup, as some people would like to say. We're not a melting pot. And we shouldn't fall into this, because this is the talk of the right-wingers, some of the white supremacists, who would like us to believe that our country is of a certain religion, certain ethnicity. It's a white Christian as they would like to understand it. Actually, not even white Christian, white Protestant, and not any white also. There's the Anglo-Saxon white. This is how some of these right-wingers understand it. The majority of the country doesn't see it that way. Most people, understand and appreciate actually our country's beauty, and never feel that you have to choose between being an American or being a Muslim. You can be proud of being both. The way a Jew, a Buddhist, a Catholic, a Protestant, American, Italian, Greek, Mexican, American can feel. No one should make us feel less American, or no one should make us feel that we have to give up who we are. So my dear brothers and sisters, this is our chance to actually implement our values, bring our values to the public arena, to the public square, where we can show that actually American Muslims add value to this country. And it's important because it allows us back to the first point I made at the beginning, and that is, how can we preserve our identity? Because we owe it. If we don't owe it to anyone else, we owe it to our own children to make sure that we create an environment where they can practice their religion, where they can be proud to be who they are, not feeling defensive, not feeling that they have to live a double life, one with us and one when they go to school or with their friends. This is our chance to plan. This is our chance not to do the same mistakes that other communities did early on, past century, past decades in other places. The way to do it, and I will conclude very briefly, we first have to build that identity within ourselves. We have to ease up that tension that exists sometimes within our own selves and our own families about being, are you an Afghan? Are you an American? Are you a Pakistani? Are you a Syrian? Are you an Iraqi? Are you an Iranian? Are you a Muslim? You can be all of these. No one is one identity. No one in the world is one identity. You can be many, multiple sub-identities at the same time. And they don't need to clash. You can be all of these. An engineer, a soccer player, someone who is of Pakistani origin, someone who is an active Muslim and devout Muslim, and an American, and a Republican, I don't know why, or a Democrat. You can be anything you choose to be. I'm just kidding, I know there are a lot of Republicans. You can be anything you choose, and you can, alhamdulillah, if you believe in them, if you enjoy them, that's fine. Keep it. Don't feel that you have to make a choice. That is important. And get to know, learn about the history of our country, the history of who we are, so we can speak up on it with pride, no hesitation. Second, build a community, because the only way we can preserve that identity is really by building institutions. A masjid, where we gather, so we attend the khutbahs. A school, where our children can learn the Quran, learn Arabic, learn Islam. The institutions that defend our civil rights, that fight against Islamophobia, that bring us a voice, a political voice. Yes, I'm talking about care. We need to support these organizations. The masjid, the school, the care, the social services. So those who fall economically, we can carry them. They don't have to go somewhere else. We as a community, we can take care of our own. Also, build the political influence and use it. So politicians, so people active in politics don't feel the need to hammer on us, to cater to the voices of extremism, right-wing extremism, and so on and so forth. So they know that actually there's a community that is here, that should be respected and ought to be respected like all other communities in our country. And last but not least, apply those values. Apply those values in defense of the rights of all people. We don't want to be a Muslim community that only fights for Muslim rights. It's good to fight for our rights and for our identity and our dignity. But as Muslims, we're called upon to defend the rights of all people. All the oppressed, all the underdogs, everyone who has been being treated unjustly should know that they have a friend, an ally in the Muslim community. That's when we know that we become relevant. That's when we know we're fully integrated, meaning we kept our identity that stands for justice, but also we're implementing it. We're adding it as part of the factor that defends the rights of others. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us a community that lives up to its duty as an ummah of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And I remind myself and yourself with the verse in Surah Al-Zumar, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us and says, قل إن الخاسرين الذين خسروا أنفسهم وأهليهم يوم القيامة ألا ذلك هو الخسران المبين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the true losers, the biggest losers, are those who will lose themselves and their families on the day of judgment. Indeed, this is the clearest of loss a person can have. May Allah allow us to protect ourselves, protect our families, protect our children, protect our progeny, to be good Muslims who please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروا ففوز المستغفرين. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. My dear brothers and sisters, as we prepare for Ramadan, this is the chance, inshallah, to renew our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, renew our commitment to our deen, renew our relationship with each other. Husbands and wives, parents and children, brothers to brothers, brothers to sisters, siblings, and community members. Don't allow Ramadan to come to you and you haven't opened a new page with others. Because you're asking Allah to open a new page with you, right? You're telling Allah, please accept this new, clean, clear page. Forgive all of my sins. Let's do that to each other. Let's not ask Allah to do things we are not willing to do to each other. Let's do it. If we've done wrong to others, seek their apology. Seek their forgiveness. And if they've done you something wrong, tell them, I forgive you. And start a new page. Wallahi, there is no way a community can be strong unless we have good relationship among ourselves. Otherwise, if we're weak internally, don't expect to defeat Islamophobia or anything else. عباد الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد كما صليت وسلمت وباركت على سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم نسألك الخير كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم، ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم. اللهم نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك وعبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ بك منه عبدك ورسولك محمد. اللهم نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل، ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. اللهم نسألك أن تجعلنا ممن يشهدون شهر رمضان. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يشهدون ويصومون في شهر رمضان ويقومونه وتصدقون فيه يا رب. اللهم اجعلنا من المقبولين، اللهم اجعلنا من المقبولين، واغفر لنا ولسائر المسلمين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأقم الصلاة.